Hi, and welcome to This Week in Data. My name is Devin Knight. I'm here with Adam Jorgensen, and we want to welcome you to our new video podcast. But we want to start by explaining to you why we're doing this, Adam. So what's the deal with this? Why are we doing it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's an exciting thing for us to be trying. We're always looking for new ways to drive conversation with our customers and the community. And as we're having those conversations, we get asked a lot of questions. And sometimes we can answer those on Twitter, 140 characters, right? Some answers are simple. Sometimes we need to write a blog about it or do a webinar. That makes more sense. But I think there's a lot of things that we see at Pragmatic Works that are part of companies' data cultures and part of the way they're trying to change their organizations, or really just fun topics to debate at a SQL Saturday or at another event that really are better for discussion.
Yeah.
Right? They're good for you and me to talk about. We might have the same opinion. We might have a different opinion. Our audience is going to have tons of different opinions, and we want to hear about that. We want the discussion to be for all of us.
Right.
And the only way to really do that is through something like a video podcast where we can put this out there and then work with you guys and go back and forth in comments and things like that. So we're pretty excited to see how This Week in Data can really help you address all the things you're thinking about in terms of your data culture.
Absolutely. So this will be brought to you by Pragmatic Works. And just so you know a little bit of the format of how the show will go, Adam and I will always start with some form of news. We'll have what's going on in the data world, whether it's this week or maybe within recent time periods. So you'll hear something new that's going on in the data world that you might not be aware of, or maybe you'll just hear some discussion of between us about it. And then we'll also have a variation of topics that will be themed for each of our podcasts. So it may be a top 5 list of something. It may just be a discussion that we're having where we're kind of asking each other, what do you think about this? Or what do you think will be important to you in this general topic? So you'll see things like that as we do this video podcast. We hope you guys enjoy it. And we're going to go ahead and get right into it. And we're going to start today with some news, right? So do you have some news? You have some news for me?
I do. There's a lot of news happening. It's conference season and announcement season for a lot of companies. And Microsoft made a pretty big announcement. They bought LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised. I think a lot of people were a little surprised. I think we're still waiting to see where that investment is going to go. You know, Satya Nadella is talking about how we can combine our collaborative networking with our day-to-day productivity. And I think there's a very cool CEO level story that's wrapped around that. I think we'll see how they translate that into something that's really extra value for the rest of us.
Yeah, this could be a podcast in its own, talking about the usage of LinkedIn. But how do you use LinkedIn? Just briefly, what do you use LinkedIn for?
I stalk people, Devin. That's what I do.
And they know you stalk them because it says.
And they do because it says Adam viewed your profile. No, the big thing I use LinkedIn for is I like to stay connected with our customers. I like to stay connected with people I meet in the community. It's another great place where I share a lot of the news and other things and have some good conversations. I belong to a few groups. Just a few. I think you can overdo that. You get 40 million emails in one day. That can be a little much. If you have to put a rule in for LinkedIn, you're subscribed to too many things. It's probably my rule of thumb. But I think a lot of people, even though LinkedIn might not be as socially upfront as something like Twitter or Snapchat or something like that, LinkedIn is kind of a backbone of a lot of people's professional network. And there's lots of great, I have a plugin for Outlook that I use, so when I have a meeting, it gives me some basic information from people's LinkedIn profiles, which is great, because that way I know kind of what their background is and what their role is at the company, if there's somebody I don't happen to know. So I do think they have a lot of opportunity to move it forward.
And I think that ties in and makes sense why Microsoft would buy it. It's more corporate, it's more business focused. So it makes sense there. So what else you got?
What kind of car do you have?
I have a Honda Accord, Civic, excuse me.
Honda Civic. Okay. Not moved to the Accord yet.
No. I need a cheapo commuter car for me.
That's all right. The Civic is the way to go.
It's a 1983 Honda Civic.
It is not a 1983. I've seen it. It is not a 1983. I'm glad you don't have a Jeep Cherokee, because apparently a number of months ago, some hackers showed how they can hack a Jeep Cherokee. And so Jeep said, oh, shoot, let's patch this and get it fixed. And so they did. They issued one of the largest recalls in automotive history. They got it all fixed. It is not fixed. And so the hackers have come back now, and not only can they still get in and enable the emergency brake and disable the transmission, but they can activate things like the auto park and turn the car. It's obviously a very dangerous situation. So that got announced this week, and Gadget actually reported it, and I'm sure Jeep is scrambling to try to keep their customers safe. Obviously, I'm sure that's their priority, and try to figure this thing out once and for all.
It makes you wonder how vulnerable all of the smart cars are that have the smart capabilities. Is it just Jeep, or do the hackers just pick on Jeep for whatever reason? Or are all the cars vulnerable to things like that? There's a lot of cars that have those kind of capabilities now. So
I pick on Jeeps.
You pick on Jeeps?
Just because I don't like them. But that's for a different podcast.
All right, give us one more news nugget here.
Microsoft has their Data Science Summit coming up. So nice. Advanced analytics and data science is a really growing and rapidly growing topic for people just trying to learn about it, get education, as well as trying to implement it in their organizations. We see it a lot with our customers. And Microsoft is hosting a 2-day data science hands-on summit at their Ignite conference. So if you want to learn more about it, go to the Ignite website, and there should be tons of information there about it. I would highly recommend it. It looks pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Very interesting.
Very good way to kind of get hands-on with this technology, which I think is important for people when they're trying to learn it.
Yeah. So you guys can expect a segment like that each one of our video podcasts, focus on the news, what's going on in this world with our data world, I guess.
Our data world.
Our culture. And so what we're going to transition into next is talk a bit about a topic that a lot of people debate a lot, which is kind of the value of certifications and specifically Microsoft certifications, or I guess you could say certifications in general, really. But what value do they have in today's world? Do they have value, and what's the debate with it? Because you hear, I know when I go to a lot of user groups and things like that, people that are going through a moment where they can choose, do I look and try and focus in on getting the certification or not? They kind of ask me questions about it. What kind of relevance does it have in today's world? So let's start there. Let's start with that, Adam. Why is there such a debate on certifications and the value of them?
The MCP program, which is Microsoft certification program, just one of a bunch of different ones out there, started in 1992, and it kind of went up and down during the dot-com boom and bust. It lost some credibility. It became pretty easy to get some of these certifications. You can kind of download the tests online, that kind of thing. And so certifications got a bit of a bad rep, but since then they've come back really strong. A lot of the tests have become a lot more difficult. A lot of external parties, like Microsoft partners and other folks who are very specialized in a particular area, are actually the ones writing the tests and helping to develop the content. So that's really brought the strength of them back. I think the debate is coming because people who have certifications, for obvious reasons, want to believe there's a lot of value in them. And people that don't have them, may feel a little insecure. Or they may have not gotten them on purpose and said, look, I'm just already an expert. I don't need the certifications. And it can become a very personal conversation. All right. So I think there is a lot of debate, but most of it comes down to people's personal motivations and their personal goals. And not everybody has the same goals. So we're going to have some disagreement, and that's okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. So if you had to say, and let's focus in on Microsoft for this question, what certifications are most in demand in today's data culture? Which ones, if you had to tell someone that was kind of just making that decision, which ones to narrow their scope to, what would you tell them to go after?
So I would focus, and again, this all depends on what your background is and what kind of job you're trying to get, what kind of work you're doing. But I would start with the cloud. I would start with certifications that help me develop applications, architect platforms, do those kinds of things in the cloud. Our preference would be Azure, but actually AWS and Amazon have similar programs. So if your company is all in on AWS, another great option to pursue. Then I would look at things like Windows Server. There's new versions of Windows Server. They've changed dramatically over the last few years. Being able to manage and architect hybrid platforms between on-premise and cloud. There's a lot of different certifications around that. And if you're more of an application developer, there's some great new certifications for designing applications that are really modern applications that are integrating all the things that Azure has to bring, all the new .NET framework components, as well as a lot of third-party APIs, new types of architectures. So those certifications, I think, are incredibly valid. And I know you said Microsoft, but I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Sure, go ahead.
Because of the way that the cloud is at this point, and we don't really care what runs there. It doesn't have to be a Microsoft thing. The other thing that's really important for a lot of companies is a Red Hat certified engineer.
Oh, okay, interesting.
A lot of companies run a significant Linux platform, and Red Hat is just one example of a few different vendors, but one of the hottest ones when we did our search on the job boards was a Red Hat certified engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So one of the questions I get oftentimes when I have these discussions with individuals is, do certifications really make a difference? Meaning, I have to go for a job interview. Are people really looking at it? And what do they make a difference? If I have two people that have one and don't have one, maybe that's a scenario. But kind of talk to that if you don't mind.
64% of hiring managers, and these are IT hiring managers, not somebody in HR,
right,
say that certifications make a difference to them. And so whether they make a difference to me or not really doesn't matter. More than half of the hiring managers out there today are telling us they matter.
Right.
So we got to take that seriously. And I think a big part of the reason that they matter is because as a hiring manager, you can't screen for everything.
Sure.
We do technical screenings on hires, and you know how many different people it takes to actually screen somebody across everything that, a great consultant should know. When you're, especially in the corporate world, most people have more focused roles as a DBA or an app developer, et cetera, right? So if you have a certification that says, I know these best practices, I can prove that I can pass the test, it may not mean, yes, you automatically get the job, but chances are you're going to get further in the process than you would had you not had the certification. Right. And on average, certified professionals make 15% more than non-certified professionals that do the same role. And I believe, this is my personal belief, I have no statistics or data to back this up, but just knowing from my own hiring and my own growth and my own work with our customers, it's because of that hiring credibility, they come in at a higher rate, so they start higher.
Right.
So if you have somebody who's going to make 90,000 or 105 as a senior role in a corporate environment, they may come in closer to the 105.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then as they both move up, one of them stays ahead.
Makes sense. And it could be, too, I think you mentioned this as we were talking on the side about this before, that people that are willing to spend time and commit to completing a certification, they're probably someone that has a little bit stronger work ethic, someone that's going to be willing to be a stronger worker in general, right?
Yeah, we really like at Pragmatic Works, we like lifelong learners.
Yeah.
Right? When you're working with our customers, and we kind of got to stay on the forefront of all of these new data technologies, and in order to do that, you have to want to learn new things. And that doesn't mean you have to go rush out and take the test every time.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that are that type A motivated lifelong learners, they also like to test themselves. And they like to kind of gamify the experience, and getting a great certification score is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Pragmatic Works there. So does Pragmatic Works care that much about certifications? How do we look at it when we're doing hiring? We
do. It's an interesting conversation, and it's one of the things that brought this up for This Week in Data, right? Because as we hire, we get asked by candidates, does this really matter? Right. Why does it matter? And they're on both sides of that personal debate.
Right.
For us, it matters for a few reasons. As a partner for Microsoft, we have to maintain competencies. So that means I have to have, a certain amount of people that have a certification in data platform, data analytics, cloud platform, app dev, right? Microsoft requires that of us to maintain our partnership. So the good news is they always try to make sure those are current certifications. So as we're investing the time, our team is getting the benefit of, learning new things and continuing to move forward. We also care because of what you mentioned a minute ago, right? People that are driven to continue to improve themselves will continue to not only help improve themselves, but they'll be a good example for the rest of the team. They'll be a good example to our customers. Right. And if they're exposed to a lot of those certifications and those processes, they can help others in the community, and they can mentor each other and help our customers and our community audience. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I guess it comes down to this question. Actually, before we do that, let me ask you one other question.
Sure.
What?
You get two more questions.
Two more questions. All right, fine. Two more. If someone had to get a certification versus actually going back to school for a particular topic, what would you is there a certain recommendation one way or another? So I know I can go back to school and I can spend months trying to get a degree in something.
You could.
Or I can go get certified and by work my way through a test. What's the thought process there?
Well, that is...
that's a loaded one, right?
I bet that one gets a lot of comments on YouTube. We'd love to hear your feedback on that, by the way. Yeah. Which one do you think is more valuable?
Yeah.
Now, we have people on our team that have done both. And I think that for people who want to lead a line of business or help launch products or combine technology and, a business type role, whether it's business development, more in sales, or whether it's product management, product creation, putting things out to market, or whether it's just ultimately a technical management kind of role. I think that going back to school helps because you get more of a balance in that program, right? That's what they're really training you to do.
Right.
If you are a DBA and you want to learn how to build databases and tune them and architect solutions in Azure, don't go back to school for that.
Right.
Take a certification, take some online training, right? Don't spend all that money to go back and get a secondary degree where they're not even going to teach you that.
Sure.
Focus on what you need to learn. So if your goal is additional technical capability, I think the certifications, the online training, MOOCs, the massively online courses, those are a great option. If your goal is to do more, then the degree might be more up your alley.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. This depends on what your real angle is. Why your motivation? Why are you doing it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So the ultimate question then that it comes down to is the folks that are watching, should they go get a certification?
It depends.
Classic Adam answer.
Yes. You knew it was coming. I actually believe most of them should probably go pursue some type of certification. I think we probably have folks in the audience who are really great at what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a BI developer and they're like, look, I've been a BI developer for 8 years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah.
That's what Devin tells me. And I would say that's probably true.
Yeah.
All the more reason to go get the certification. If you're that good and you can go pass it at lunch, your company would probably pay for it.
Many do, yeah.
Many do. And
Pragmatic Works does.
Pragmatic Works absolutely does. Pendant. So, from my perspective, there's no reason to not go get it, right?
Sure.
We don't know what's going to happen in today's world. We have companies who hire and lay off and people transition through to nothing that they have any control over.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself in a situation where you then do have something to prove, having a solid credentialing background will really help augment the good work you've already done and your performance in an interview and all those kinds of things. So if you're already an expert, no reason to not set yourself up for success. Now, on the flip side, if you're learning something new, it's a great way to challenge yourself. If you want to learn how to build a data warehouse in Azure or build an analytics platform in the cloud, sign up to take a certification test for that.
Nothing like that to push yourself.
Right.
You put a date on yourself to learn something.
Give yourself that target.
I know I've done that to myself.
We all have. Give yourself that target to move forward.
Yeah.
And, you will. You will. I think you'll motivate. Sometimes I think you and I both, maybe we waited a little too long on a couple of those deadlines.
Yeah, sure.
But we did okay.
The night before?
We did okay.
Yeah.
Night before. Wow. Early prepper. Look at you. I did an audio recording on the way to the test center.
There you go.
That's not a good idea, guys.
Joking
don't do
completely.
That.
I never waited the night before.
Me neither. For all intents and purposes, I think that certifications are a good idea. With the amount of new technologies that are growing, I think it makes sense for a lot of people.
Yeah. Now, we're curious what you guys think. So comment below if you'd like to tell us a little bit more about what you think about taking certifications. Do you agree? Do you disagree? We'd like to hear from you.
I'd like to know what certifications they really want to take.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
I think that would be really interesting to see. So if you already have them or you're thinking about taking one, please post. Let us know. We want to continue the conversation with all of you. That's why we're doing this.
Absolutely. Well, again, we want to thank you for visiting here with us, Adam, and myself at This Week in Data. I'd also like to tell you a little bit about what Pragmatic Works is doing, just briefly. We have free webinars every Tuesday you can visit if you go to pragmaticworks.com. Again, thanks for visiting and joining us, and we'll see you next time.